Hi everyone, this is Griffin here presenting on my 5-minute Brain in the News article. This week I actually chose an article from Adweek, and given the recent Oscars, I thought it would be timely to talk about brands and specifically Samsung. So this article talks about Oscar advertisers and who got the biggest brand lifts on social media. And why I thought it was really interesting is that Samsung actually came into first place, as you can see here. And these brands were actually ranked by affinity lift and engagement per million. Affinity lift, as you can see here, is the measurement of which the prospective audiences were engaged during the Oscars. So the higher the number, the better the brand did at attaining engagement during the Oscars. And then engagement per million is basically the specific number of engagement per $1 million that was spent, which is an average price for a 30-second spot during the Oscars. And so you can see here Samsung is by far the first. What's interesting about Samsung is last year they actually were first as well. I don't know if you guys remember Ellen taking a selfie, and a lot of people thought that that was random, when in fact the selfie that Ellen took with the Galaxy was part of a $20 million Samsung advertising campaign to promote the Galaxy Note 3. And so I thought it was really interesting that they didn't necessarily use an advertisement, but they used a brand in Ellen herself and obviously Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, and whatnot to take this selfie. And they ended up getting a lot of impact in a short amount of time. This is another article that talks about last year how Samsung Galaxy broke a record for number of retweets that was previously set by President Obama on his re-election night. And so again, Samsung is top, and it actually set the standard in terms of the index rating, followed by Pepsi and Google. And so for a brand to really get first place both years, I mean, Pepsi and Google were not in this year's article. Samsung was followed by Dove and Dior. So I felt like Samsung did a really great job of really selecting the right outlet to which it would associate itself. And the article even talks about how Samsung actually used old-fashioned ways to attract consumers, but yet it still got engagement. And I'll post the link up online, but the Galaxy Note commercial did have a commercial, and it was basically a simple commercial talking about the pen is mightier than ever, but it wasn't anything different than what they normally do. I thought that this really related to Aker's concept of brand personality creating brand equity, and he basically talks about how certain brands can dictate and show off people's personalities based on the brands that they choose. So Samsung, for example, was also related to the brand Birdman. So what this company did foresee is that they associated different brands with the amount of engagement that the movies were getting. So brand sponsors versus movie affinity. And you can see JCPenney users were most associated themselves with Still Alice, and American Express users most associated themselves with Selma. And so you can see that the people who were interested in Samsung were also interested in the movie Birdman, which can really help brands overall, I feel like, determine who their target audiences are. And the last graph that the article talked about is basically overall engagement and sentiment. And so I thought it was interesting that Birdman closes the night with Best Picture, and the people that were also interested in Birdman were obviously also interested in Samsung. And so Samsung has definitely learned how to associate themselves with the right brands, which therefore impacts the amount of engagement they get per $1 million they spend. And so that makes them the top ad score again for this year's Oscars. So I'll post some pictures and questions online for you guys to answer, and I can't wait to hear your feedback in terms of what you feel about Samsung and how it utilizes Oscars to advertise. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to hear from all of you. Bye.